The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by this podcast and its hosts are for entertainment purposes only. The following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Enjoy the show.
Are we on the air?
Oh, yeah.
It's the Code Breakers podcast. And I'm your host. Y'all know the name. Thank you, because now. That's Joplin, y'all.
Yes, y'all. And you don't stop.
Check them out. It's the Code Breakers podcast. It goes to 1, 2, 3, and here we go. Let's start the show.
Back to another episode of the Code Breakers podcast. I'm your host. Y'all know the name. That's Joplin. Joplin, say what's up to the listeners.
What's up, everyone? Glad to be here and ready to break some more code with you all. Let's get into it and have a great episode.
Code Breakers podcast. Everybody can reach out to the Code Breakers podcast at gmail.com. Any questions or comments? I thank you to the listeners for the first episode. Joplin, we had over 30 listeners. That's a win for me. What about you?
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic win. I mean, for our first episode, having over 30 listeners is pretty awesome. So big thanks to everyone tuning in, and let's keep it growing from here.
Right away, we're going to get into the trivia question from last episode. Joplin, what was that trivia question?
Yeah, let's dive right into that. So our trivia question from last episode was about advanced airway management. We asked what the maximum recommended depth is for inserting an endotracheal tube in an adult to avoid causing trauma. And the correct answer was 22 centimeters. So that was the trivia from last time.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The trivia question from the very first episode. The answer is 22 centimeters. As I open up this email, it looks like Miguel Rosenberg, you have the answer right. So shout out to you, Miguel Rosenberg. You are our very first trivia winner. Yeah, Joplin. Look, guys. Look. There was no response. There is no Miguel Rosenberg. I don't know why I made up that name. I'm sorry. Joplin, we need to get more listeners. How do we get more listeners? How do we make them more engaged?
Oh, absolutely, Napoli. And hey, it's all in good fun. But to get more listeners engaged, we can definitely encourage them to send in their own trivia questions or maybe even share their EMS stories. We can shout them out on the podcast. We can do little listener Q&A segments, or just keep reminding everyone that their emails really help shape the show. So the more they write in, the more we can involve them.
Let's go ahead and get the episode started. This episode is dedicated to all my Rescue Rickies out there. Joplin, you have any thoughts about Rescue Rickies?
Oh, you know I do. Rescue Rickies are kind of like the legends of their own action movie, right? They mean well, but sometimes they might just add a little extra drama to the mix. So I'm definitely ready to dive into all those Rescue Rickie tales with a good bit of humor.
All right, well, let's get into that. Joplin, go out there into the interwebs. Go ahead and do some research. Let me know, is there any Rescue Rickie stories out there that someone has posted about?
All right, so I did a little digging, and yep, there are definitely some classic Rescue Rickie tales out there. For example, there's one story of a newbie who went around telling everyone he used to be a supervisor in Boston, but in reality, he was just an EMTB at a pretty questionable company. It's that classic Rescue Rickie flair, big stories, a little exaggeration, and a whole lot of enthusiasm. So we're definitely not alone in having a few of those stories to share.
Well, Joplin, I have a story to tell of my own of a Rescue Rickie, my very first Rescue Rickie I've ever come across. They are out there, ladies and gentlemen. This certain individual happened to be my partner for the very first time when I joined EMS. He was somebody who went overboard. Joplin, what name should we give the Rescue Rickie for podcast sake?
How about we call him Ricky Stevens for the podcast? That should keep it nice and anonymous and give you a perfect name to roll with.
I don't really know where to begin. I have so many stories to tell about this guy. He worked with me for about 4 months. And within that 4 months, I could pretty much dedicate a whole podcast just to those stories that I have of him. But the story that I have for today, it happens to be just, he was one of those guys that went overboard on everything we did. He really just wanted to be recognized as an EMT, as that we were just out there saving the world. He wanted to be recognized as a hero. He just kind of had me. I don't know if there's that movie with Seth Rogen where he's like a mall cop or something, and he just he thinks he's an actual cop, and that's what this partner reminded me of. I'm going to keep the story short today, just kind of some of the things that he did out there as an EMT. For one of the major things that really just pissed me off every time is if we were sitting at an intersection and the fire department was coming through the intersection in code 3, he would actually turn on his code 3 lights and start blaring our sirens and horns. Even though we were just stopped at the light and they were coming through maybe in the opposite direction, or, coming from just an opposite street or something. And the very first time he did that, I actually had a patient in the back when he did that. We were just transporting in a code 2. And I kind of was freaked out when he had activated our lights and sirens. And when I asked him about it, he was like, "Oh, I'm just helping fire out." Like, what are you helping fire out do? Like, what are you helping them do? Like, clear an intersection? I'm pretty sure those firefighters didn't come through the intersection and go, "Oh my God, was that an EMT that just helped us? Thank God they were sitting there. Oh man, we wouldn't have made it through that intersection without them." So over time, he just started to do more dumb things like that, which I could get into the story of our very first response to a 911 call. We were out in Gardena. We got put as fire coverage. And, when our dispatch told us to go ahead and post for fire coverage, I've never seen somebody's face just look so happy. It was like he was just a kid on Christmas, just opening up his very first present. But yeah, we got put on fire coverage. It was actually my very first 911. And, for one, we started to just cruise around the streets instead of post at the intersection that they told us. And when I questioned him, he actually had a live scanner radio that was broadcasting the calls. It was his private radio. It wasn't our dispatch radio. And when I questioned that, I thought it was maybe something from the company that I work for. And when he said that it was just his private radio, I told him that we weren't going to be responding to that anyways. We'd be responding to what our dispatch sends to us. And he was kind of argumentative with me, saying, "Oh, well, if I hear it here, maybe we could get to it faster." And I just told him that would absolutely not be something that we're going to do. So he put the radio away, but our first call came out over dispatch. It was to a shortness of breath. So we arrive on scene. I hop out the ambulance. Paramedics already standing outside. He lets me know what we got. He says, "Hey, I know it came through as a shortness of breath. It just turns out that it's a female upstairs. She's drunk. She has a little bit of anxiety. We're still going to get her transported. We're going to downgrade it to BLS. So you'll just go ahead and transport the patient yourself." He told me that the patient was ambulatory. And, this all took, a matter of 10 seconds of me getting a quick report of the patient. I know that she's going to be upstairs. She's ambulatory. We don't have to worry about the shortness of breath. It's just anxiety. She's drunk. I turn around, and my Rescue Ricky partner is already grabbing out a breakaway backboard from the ambulance. And when I'm just kind of looking at the medic, and medic's looking at my partner, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what he's doing. The medic's like, hey, buddy, how about we worry about the patient and not so much about the equipment? The patient's going to be ambulatory. So just grab your gurney. I go upstairs with the medic. I tell my partner, "Hey, just go ahead and lower the gurney so when we come down," just completely ignores me. I don't know why. He's more excited about going upstairs to see a patient, I guess. I'm upstairs. I already greet the patient, let her know that we're gonna be taking her over to the ER, to get her checked out. It'd just be in her best if we do that. We stand her up, and before I could even get her standing up, here comes my Rescue Ricky partner through the door, stethoscope around the neck, starts to do his OPQRST and sample to the patient. Medics and firefighters are just looking at him. I'm just kind of like letting him be. And all of a sudden, I got a medic again going, hey, don't you think we already did that? You guys are just going to transport her. I have no idea what this guy's doing. So I help the patient get her flip-flops on, whatever. We get to the stairs, and I could see down below that he never lowered the gurney. At this time, we had manual gurneys. We didn't have the automatic gurneys or whatever. So it takes a lot more to lower those manual gurneys, especially by yourself. And I always want to be prepared when we get to the bottom of the stairs or wherever when I'm bringing a patient to a gurney, especially when they're ambulatory. I want it to already be lowered to where they could sit, just in case I have to let go of the patient. Even though this lady's drunk, I'm going to have to let go of her to lower this gurney now. So I kind of mentioned to him as we're walking down the stairs, I'm holding this lady, and he automatically lets go of the lady and runs down the stairs to lower the gurney now. Where at this point, I'm thinking safety. Like, if this lady tumbles down these stairs, it's just going to be a big deal. He's all over the place on the 911 call. Anyways, we finally get the gurney lowered. We get the patient on. We get to the ER. And, a family member calls the patient. Somehow, he gets through the ER doors, the family member. And he comes to the patient and he says, come on, let's go. Gets the patient off our gurney. They leave out the doors, and what do you guess? My partner goes chasing after them. Why is he chasing after them? I have no idea. The bottom line is safety for one. Don't know why you're chasing after a patient. If they just AMA'd or they're leaving the hospital, that's better for everybody. That's less paperwork for us. That's less paperwork for the hospital. She's AN04. She just happens to be drunk. Family member's going to come and take her. That's fine. I'm not the police. I'm not chasing after them. We decon our gurney. We get to the next call. I mean, that's the story I have of the Rescue Ricky. Ricky Stevens, Ricky. I don't know what you called him, Joplin. What was the name?
You had it right. We went with Ricky Stevens, and wow, what a story. That definitely paints the picture of a full-on Rescue Ricky moment. I mean, from flipping on the sirens at intersections to chasing after a patient leaving the ER, it sounds like he was always a little too eager to be the hero of the day. Definitely a memorable partner, to say the least.
One other quick story I guess I'll tell. It's we were EOS. We were filling up our rig, and he happened to. Well, I guess I'm standing on one side of the rig as the gas is filling up. He's actually filling up the rig on the driver's side. I'm kind of sweeping out the rig for the next shift, whatever, getting things cleaned up. I hear him talking on the other side of the rig to somebody, but I think he's on the cell phone. He kind of comes around to the other side and tells me, like, hey, can you watch the rig for a minute? As if I'm not already doing that. But I'm thinking he's going into the gas station, grab a snack, fucking take a shit. I don't know what he's about to do. But, a couple minutes pass, and I actually got view of the front doors. And the front doors of the gas station. And he, I never seen him walk inside, so I kind of was curious of where he would have went. So I came around the driver's side, and I could see off in the distance in the parking lot to the gas station, he's standing with two other gentlemen. Which, that's something already that he should have let me know that's, he's over there. Maybe he knows the guys. I have no idea. So I'm kind of cautious when I'm about to approach. I'm already grabbing gloves because I know this guy's already up to no good. As I approached the two guys, I could see inside a car that they were staying next to, there was this lady that was in the car, a pretty young girl. And she was just beat to shit. I'm talking, she was just face swollen. She had some blood, like there was already some bruising going on. And I was kind of just saying there like, what the fuck? and he tells me, "Oh, this gentleman flagged me down and said that he witnessed this individual get thrown out of her car by her boyfriend, and now he's flagging us down." And my very first question was like, "Did you call 911? Because this is not our call." He was like, "Well, we could help." And I'm like, "No, I told him, I was like, get back to the ambulance. We need to get back to the ambulance." So we get back to the ambulance, and he took that as, let's page out a still alarm about some girl getting thrown out of her car. Before I could even cancel the still alarm, I'm getting a call from a supervisor like, "What are you doing on a scene to a domestic violence?" And I had to tell him, at the time I created a word to let my supervisors know that, don't worry, I have this under control. I will explain to them the story because I got a Rescue Ricky partner. I was like, "Hey, this is a Stevens situation," and they would understand, and they would say, "Okay, call me when you're EOS." But pretty much, I had to explain to them why we don't go on scene to a domestic violence and be the first one. I mean, even cops, this is one of their number one reasons why they get injured in the job. We're not on scene as EMS to domestic violence. They could mistake us as cops. I don't know if one of these individuals is the boyfriend and everybody's just lying. What if the boyfriend comes back around and sees us standing there now and thinks we're cops? Our uniforms look like police uniforms. So I had to explain to him that it was a very dangerous situation, and he should have learned on day one of EMT school that scene safety. That's the first thing we all talk about, scene safety, BSI. But yeah, that's my second story that I had to write a lot of IRs on this individual. And I'm going to have plenty more stories during the pod to tell you about my Rescue Ricky partner. You dig any deeper, because the first story you gave me, Joplin, was not an actual Rescue Ricky story. That's just somebody lying about their position in EMS. What can you just dig deep into the interwebs? Is there any Rescue Ricky stories out there? Give me a real good one.
So there's this story out there of another Rescue Ricky who basically showed up to routine transfers wearing full tactical gear. I mean, we're talking the whole deal, rescue knife, window punch, the works, just for a basic IFT shift. And this guy would act like every call was a high-stakes rescue mission. It's that same Rescue Ricky vibe of going way overboard and thinking they're the star of the show. So you're definitely not alone. These stories are out there, and they're always pretty wild.
That sounds like my Ricky Stevens. Yeah, I mean, they're real out there. They actually get in more trouble than good that they're doing. They might think that they're, I feel that they have good intentions, but sometimes those could be overlooked by all the bad things that they're doing out there, thinking that they're actually more than what they really are. But yeah, Joplin, I'm going to wrap that storytelling up. Let's go ahead and get into our trivia. What is your next trivia question we got for our podcast listeners?
So for this episode's trivia question, we'll keep it a little bit challenging but fun. Here we go. In the assessment acronym, DCAP BQLS, what does the letter S stand for? Is it A, soft tissue injury, B, swelling, C, symmetry, or D, scarring? So let's see if our listeners can get that one, and we'll reveal the answer next time.
I could see Joplin made the question a little bit more EMT friendly for this episode. I know that first question was a little bit more challenging for EMTs unless you ride with medics or nurses. So yeah, Joplin, if they have any answers, where can they reach out to? What is the email?
Yeah, absolutely. We're making it a bit more EMT friendly this time around. And if anyone's got an answer, they can just shoot it over to the Codebreakers Podcast at gmail.com. We'll be checking that inbox and looking out for those answers.
When you have that answer, let's go ahead and get one person to respond, please. I know this is our very first episodes coming out. Hopefully we get more listeners. Hopefully people spread the word. Tip of the day, tip of the pod. That's what I'm going to call it. Plan your exits. For all you drivers out there driving ambulances, when you're pulling up the SNFs, you're pulling up the hospitals, you're picking up patients, you're transporting patients to the ER, plan your exits. I hate seeing ambulances parked in a crowded parking lot in between a bunch of cars. They're having to do 3-4 point turns to back out with no backer. They have a patient in the back. You're at more risk of damaging one of your ambulances, and that's the last thing you want to do when you work for a lot of these companies is damage an ambulance. So yeah, that's the tip of the pod. The Code Breakers podcast. We're going to go ahead and end it on that note. Joplin, you got anything else for the listeners before we end it?
I think you wrapped it up perfectly, Napoli. Just a big thanks to everyone listening, and remember to send in those trivia answers and spread the word about the podcast. We'll catch you all next time.
The Code Breakers podcast. We out.